As the summer sizzle fades, it's time to establish a wellness routine that's here to stay. Ritual is shaking up the supplement industry with their focus on traceable science and high-quality ingredients. They've got every base covered, from their clinically backed women's 18-plus multivitamin to their stress relief and sleep melatonin, both using first-of-its-kind BioSeries technology designed to optimize formula delivery. For a limited time, get up to 40% off your first month at ritual.com/podcast.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woo-hooer, a hand clapper, a high-fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
Good day and welcome to Predators Proclivity, where we look at data from the season for the NHL Nashville Predators and make comments upon it. I'm your host, Preston Proctor. Getting a little ahead of myself again. I am recording this a little bit ahead of time because of my schedule, so I won't have the latest information on the standings and potentially any additional trades or anything that may happen over the next couple of days. But I wanted to make sure to get my analysis of the next couple of games out. So I apologize for it not being on target, but hopefully Hopefully, I still cover the things that I need to. The Preds are starting a 6-game road trip. They are going to be popping across the border a couple of times. In this podcast, I'm going to just talk about the first 2 games, December 27th at St. Louis and December 30th at Winnipeg. The opponents, this is going to be a tough road trip. They're going to be playing 2 of the top teams in the league and play one of them twice. They will start with St. Louis, going to be covered today. Then they go for a back-to-back at Winnipeg and Minnesota. So cover Winnipeg, and we'll have to touch a little bit on Minnesota since it's a back-to-back. It will affect who's going to be in goal. Minnesota, they play on New Year's Eve. So looking at the Preds schedule, this Minnesota game, this is where they're at after the Winnipeg Minnesota game. I think is going to really determine how the Preds move forward for the rest of the season. It's definitely in January, but we'll definitely see how at the end of the year, it'll be clear whether or not the Preds should be thinking that they're going to make the playoffs and be making moves to try to make the playoffs or not. I think is kind of where they're going to be at. So after they have the back-to-back with Winnipeg and Minnesota, 3 days later, they get another back-to-back, Vancouver and Calgary. And then finally, they'll get a couple days off and go back to Winnipeg. So they get to play Winnipeg twice on this trip, and that will finish off the road trip. So the opponents we're discussing today, St. Louis and Winnipeg. This is the first game of 4 versus St. Louis. The other 3 games will all be within a 10-day stretch in late March. This is weird scheduling, but St. Louis isn't that far from Nashville, so I guess it's not that big of a deal from a travel standpoint. Just odd to play the same team within 3 games within a 10-day stretch. It just seems a little weird. St. Louis is 15-16-3 overall, 6-8-1 at home. They are 6th in the Central with 33 points, 2 behind Utah and 7 ahead of Chicago. That might be slightly out of date when you're listening to this, but anyway, this will be their first of 2 games at home. They will play Buffalo 2 days after the Nashville game. For Winnipeg, this is the second game of the year versus Winnipeg, the first one in Winnipeg. They will meet again in 8 days, again in Winnipeg, and that'll take care of the Winnipeg games. The last game of the series will be in Nashville at the end of February. Winnipeg is 23-10-1, 11-3-1 at home. Definitely a very good home team. They've been a really good team. They had a bad stretch. They lost, I think, about 5 games in a row. If I remember last year, they were a very streaky team too. It looks like they lost 4 in a row. They did get off to one of the hottest starts in hockey history. They are still first in the Central with 47 points, 3 points ahead of Minnesota, who has 2 games in hand. Again, all of this potentially could change. The number of points definitely will change, but the situation. Currently, they are first in the league, 2 points ahead of the Devils, who have played 1 more game, 2 points ahead of the Knights, who have 2 games in hand. This will be the second of a 2-game homestand. They will have played Ottawa 2 days beforehand. Notable personnel changes for St. Louis. They've got a number of people back on injured reserve. Center Radek Faksa, defenseman Philip Broberg, defenseman Nick Leddy. No notable stats for any of them. I think Leddy is one of the defensemen that they do rely on a little bit. But they did recall defenseman Tyler Tucker from the Springfield Thunderbirds. So nothing notable there with regards to St. Louis. With Winnipeg, center David Gustafson and center Dylan Samberg. Again, no notable stats on either of those on injured reserve, but they are expected to be back in time to play Nashville. They did activate left wing Nikolai Ehlers from injured reserve. So nothing major there either. The people to watch in St. Louis is number 25 center Jordan Kyrou, first in goals with 14, first in points with 28, and first in shots with 97. The other watcher is number 18 center Robert Thomas, first in assists with 18, and first in plus and minus with 7. For Winnipeg, a little bit more to look at. Number 81 left wing Kyle Connor, first in goals with 19, first in points with 42, and first in shots with 118. Number 55 center Mark Scheifele, second in goals with 18, second in points with 38, second in shooting percentage at 23%. The guy in first has like 2 goals. So, so he's most notably. For somebody that's played the most games, shooting percentage at 23%, 23.4%, 18 goals on 77 shots. So he's second in goals, but really good shooting percentage. So number 55, Mark Scheifele. And then also number 44 defenseman Josh Morrissey, first in assists with 27 and first in time on ice, 24-35. So those are your people to worry about there.
As the summer sizzle fades, it's time to establish a wellness routine that's here to stay. Ritual is shaking up the supplement industry with their focus on traceable science and high-quality ingredients. They've got every base covered, from their clinically backed women's 18-plus multivitamin to their stress relief and sleep melatonin, both using first-of-its-kind BioSeries technology designed to optimize formula delivery. For a limited time, get up to 40% off your first month at ritual.com/podcast.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
For the Nashville Predators, the summary, the overall, the Preds are 9-17-7. Will change a little bit. They are 3-10-4. That's not going to change. On the road, that's not going to change. So not playing very well on the road. The Preds are 8th in the Central Division. Don't expect that to change. And these two games start the 6-game road trip. Nothing notable to report at this time with regards to personnel. People to watch, number 9 left wing Philip Forsberg, number 59 defenseman Roman Josi, number 81 right wing Jonathan Marchessault, and number 91 center Steven Stamkos. On the road, the Preds are 3-10-4. Getting the first goal has not been measurably an advantage on the road, 2-3-2. Getting the first goal when they don't, 1-7-1. So definitely getting the first goal gives them a better chance at winning. Not getting the first goal is the harbinger of bad things. Winning by period on the road, not doing so well in the first period. They're 3-4-10, so most likely to tie the first period than to do anything else. In the second period, 4-8-5. That's not, well, it's better than the first period. The third period, 3-7-7. And 0-4-0 in overtime. So they do not have a winning record anywhere in any period, anywhere when it comes to being on the road. That definitely needs to change. I think they'll have a pretty good chance at getting that changed, especially against St. Louis and hopefully against Winnipeg as well. So looking at the correlation between the winning by period and winning overall, say on the road they are 3-4-10 in the first period. Of those three times that they won the first period, they are 0-3. The 4 times that they lost, they 1-3, and then the ties, they're 2-8. So winning the first period is not necessarily a harbinger of winning the game, but they haven't won is the problem. I think start looking at some of these stats. Now, the second period, they did win the second period 4 times, and they're 3-1. So that's good if they win the second period. Of course, they aren't winning the second period very much. And the 1-2 when they win the third period, 2-5 when they tie the third period, and 0-7 when they lose the third period, 0-8 losing the second period. So losing the second, third period, not good. But definitely there is the one bright spot is in the 3 wins that they did win the second period. So again, the second period. Playing better in the second period is critical to them moving forward. Again, they're 3-10-4, so yeah. Primarily the winning goal being scored in the second period. Overall, 41%. For the Preds, 67% when they win, and for the opposition, 36%. So most likely the winning goal will be scored in the second period. Moving on to goal scoring on the road. Well, on the road, they're hanging in there in the first period. Again, they've won the first period a few times, so they're 7-10. They're only being outscored by 3 in the first period, being outscored by 7 in the second period. Excuse me, and being outscored by 9 in the third. However, there's 9 empty net goals to be taken out, 2 for the Preds and 7. So it actually, they're only being outscored by 3, taking out the empty net goals, which tells you that when they're playing, they're actually playing fairly close. But overall, they're being outscored, taking out the empty net goals, 29-47 on the road. So that's normalized to 1.7 or averaged out to 1.7 versus 2.8. So they're being outscored over a goal a game, and that's taking out the empty net goals, which I think is indicative. If they were playing better, there wouldn't be the opportunity for an empty net goal. So I think that they have shown that they can play, and they can score in the third period, which is really handy. For the matchups, moving on to the matchups. For St. Louis, last year the Preds swept the Blues in 3 games. The first 2 were in St. Louis. The Preds won 8-3 and 5-2, and then in Nashville 6-3. So a lot of scoring for the Preds. In 3 games, they scored 19 goals. That would be nice to see that again. They need to get their goal scoring on track. They're playing better. It looks like they always start to look like they're going to figure things out. The Preds did score in all 9 periods of the 3 games last year. The Blues scored in 7 of them. Oddly enough, they did not score in the second period in the second and third games. The Preds did get the first goal against St. Louis in all of those. The Blues are on will be on a 3-game road trip. They're currently on a 3-game road trip. They're 0-1. They play Florida and Detroit before meeting the Preds, and excluding those 2 games, they are 4-4-2 in their last 10. Definitely not a team that's starting to gather momentum. I have to start wondering about them. They were just involved in the trade with. Didn't they just traded a guy away for future considerations to Pittsburgh? If I'm remembering that. No. They just they acquired Cam Fowler from defenseman Cam Fowler from Anaheim. That's what it was. Yeah. Okay, so they did make a trade. I was kind of curious to see that Cam Fowler got traded away from Anaheim. He was the longest, except for the second longest person to play for the Ducks. But there you go. But definitely the St. Louis doesn't really seem to have reached a good stride either. Against Winnipeg last year, Nashville was 2-2. And 1-1 in Winnipeg. They won the middle 2 games of the 4-game series. They scored at least 3 goals. They scored 3 goals in 3 of the games and 4 goals in one of them, and the 4 goal was a win. So they scored 3 goals in 2 games that were a loss. One of them went to overtime, so the Winnipeg scored 4 in that game. Winnipeg scored 6 in the other game that they won. In the games that they lost, they only scored 2 goals. So 3-2, 4-2 and 3-2. So if we can hold Winnipeg to 2 goals, that would be a good harbinger. Or 1, like we did earlier this season. The Preds scored 4. So it looks like 3, a race to 3 in that. Preds did get the first goal in everything but the first game, which was a loss. So they got the first goal in the 2 wins and in the second loss. They also got the first goal earlier this year when they got the win here in Nashville. Next up for the Jets is Minnesota at home, and then they play Toronto at Toronto, and then they're back in Winnipeg to play Ottawa, and then they'll meet Nashville. Excluding those games, they are 5-4-1 in their last 10 games. Definitely not the momentum that they're looking for. So also with regards to the matchup comparison, so I tried to see where what strengths, weaknesses the teams had in order to highlight. I did not find anything to say was a strength for St. Louis, unfortunately. And the strange thing is, they're in a better shape than Nashville. Nashville's main strength is that they are first in the penalty kill percentage at 87%. So they have that. Now, the penalty kill is a weakness. It's a strength for Nashville, a weakness for Winnipeg, and especially for St. Louis. They are 18th and 23rd, roughly still around the same percentage. Winnipeg 78.9 and St. Louis at 77.3, but still an opportunity for Nashville. The strengths for Winnipeg, they are first in the league in scoring goals. So they got 123 goals. They are 25th in goals against, so they are a little stingy, giving up 87 goals. Their power play percentage at 31%, very good. So definitely another team that we do not want to be giving up a lot of penalties and giving them an opportunity to score. Weaknesses are all over the place for Nashville and St. Louis. The primary weakness for Winnipeg, the only thing I've written down is their penalty kill 18th, so middle of the league, not terrible. Goals for, bad for both St. Louis and Nashville. St. Louis better. They're 27th. They scored 85 to Nashville's 76. Goals against is about the same, 105 for St. Louis and 103 for Nashville. Their power play percentage, not high. Nashville's actually better than St. Louis, 23 to 27, 17 to 16%. And their penalty kill, St. Louis's penalty kill is 23rd at 77%. So they're not very good. They're not very good with the advantage or without the advantage. It's going to be it should be a competitive game, is what I like to say. Two teams that seem evenly matched. Maybe not necessarily the best hockey, but it should be very competitive. So very compelling game. Scoring and being scored on by period. The Preds fairly even scoring goals, 24, 24, 27, giving up more goals in the second period. It's more second period than the third period, and even given that they've given up 12 empty net goals, 39 goals in the second period to 36 in the third. That definitely needs to tighten up. St. Louis scores mostly in the second and third period, 22 goals in the first, but more in the second and third, which is where Winnipeg is. Winnipeg has also scored 48 goals in the third period. I assume that a lot of that is going to be empty net goals because they've been winning a lot of goals, but the 38 in the second period. So they score a lot in the second, which matches up to the Preds giving up a lot in the second, which is a bad combination. St. Louis gives up most of its goals in the third period, fairly even between the first and second. And Winnipeg giving up goals mostly in the first and second. And 35, so equivalent to Winnipeg, but I don't think they've probably given up as many empty net goals. So those are real goals, as we say. So so they score a lot in the third, and they give up a lot in the third. So that's kind of an interesting combination. So the third period against Winnipeg should be very exciting. Again, the Preds need to figure out how not to give up so many goals in the second period, how to play a lot tighter, and preferably win the second period. That's a good, especially on the road, winning the second period seems to be a harbinger of winning the game. So I'd like to see that in both of these games. Looking at NHL Edge, skating distance, I've been looking at that, and the Nashville skating distance is supposed to be better than the other teams, but the other teams then seem to be winning. In this case, Nashville's skating distance is less than both St. Louis and Winnipeg, so hopefully that will be a good thing too. Winnipeg has better speed burst over 20, top shot speed, more shots on goal. The momentum. St. Louis seems really to be playing 500 ball. They win a couple, lose a couple. I think by the time they get around to playing Nashville, they have gotten their wins out of the way just in time for the requisite loss, and the loss showing up in time for Nashville to play them. So I think that's be a good harbinger for a win for Nashville against St. Louis. For Winnipeg, they started strong, but lately they've been throwing out a loss every couple of wins, and hopefully that timing will show up for Nashville as well. Nashville's momentum is on the positive swing. They're playing better. They seem to be getting their act together, and they should be ready for both teams. It'll be interesting to see how this new defenseman works into the lineup. Goaltenders. For St. Louis, Jordan Binnington gets the most work. He's 8-13-3 with Joel Hofer at 7-3. So far, it looks like Binnington gets 2 and then Hofer 1. And given that setup, Binnington should be in goal for Nashville. For Winnipeg, Connor Hellebuyck, 25-1, 20 wins, 5 losses, not 25, but 25-1. He's getting the most work with Eric Comrie, 3-5-0. He was in goal for the first game against Nashville. Given where they're all at, I believe Hellebuyck will be in goal this time against Nashville. For Nashville has to take into consideration the fact that they've got a back-to-back with Minnesota after the Winnipeg game. I don't think that they would have Saros playing both Winnipeg and Minnesota, although could, but I think it's bad. And Noonan hasn't been playing that much. I would like, by the time they get around to playing in Winnipeg, I would like to have seen a Noonan in goal at least one more time. Last year, Noonan was in goal for Colorado in a 5-2 win over Minnesota. And then I think Saros was in goal for everything last year as St. Louis and Winnipeg. Didn't see anything of note. So I'm kind of expecting Saros to be in goal versus St. Louis and Winnipeg, saving Noonan from Minnesota. But what do I know? All right, so that is that's your matchups. So players to look out for: St. Louis, number 25, Jordan Kyrou. No clue how to pronounce that, Kyrou. And number 18, center Robert Thomas. Number 25 and number 18 for Winnipeg. Number 81, Kyle Connor. Number 55, Mark Scheifele. And number 44, defenseman Josh Morrissey. 81, 55, and 44. Those are your people to watch for. And I did try to tighten up my podcast today. I hope you guys getting what you need out of this. Thanks for listening. I'm Preston Proctor, and you've been listening to Predators Proclivity.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like finishing your laundry and successfully matching all your daughter's baby socks together on the first try.
Let's see. Panda socks, fire truck socks, socks with those cute little strawberries on them.
You matched each and every one of those tiny socks. I mean, has this ever happened in the history of laundry?
And a penguin wearing a cowboy hat socks. Done.
Enjoy the moment, Dad. You've earned it. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico.